Welcome to my fight show. I'm Mika Frankl. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about some fights tonight. We have a lot to do this evening. Couple guests dropping by. Surprise guests from NWA New Mexico, Duke City Championship Wrestling. Got to ask somebody how they felt the third birthday party went and what will be in store next. We had some breaking news. We know that June 12th, Las Vegas, New Mexico gets their first glimpse of Duke City Championship Wrestling. And June 20th, they will be back here. But why not talk some more pro wrestling? AEW, WWE hot, the Mega Campeon, the AAA World Title, if you will, defended on Monday Night Raw yesterday. It becomes the first title to be defended on both AEW and WWE TV. We're going to dive into the world of pro wrestling because I feel like it today. We got to talk about Power Slap 20 this weekend. You have BKB 54, Paulie Malignaggi fighting for a Police Gazette Diamond Gold belt. Yeah, we're going to have a preview for that one. Katherine Renee Lindenmuth on her way to Denmark. There's a stop in Denver, and on her layover, she said she's going to connect with us, give us a fight week update to tell us how she's feeling as she prepares for a world title fight. We're also going to have top MMA prospect. He's a middleweight, wrestled at Oklahoma, is training out of the Jacksonwink Academy. Jake Woodley is going to drop by. So looking forward to having a whole bunch of fun tonight. You want to go out and have a fun time? You start by looking good to feeling good to go out and have that good time. And you do that by starting off at Barber Gaze Fades 100 Coors Boulevard, Northwest, right here, Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's Suite 107 at the Lobo Plaza. They'll make you look good, feel good, then you get out and you have a good time like we're going to have tonight when we're talking about the combat sports and entertainment world. And where you're there, maybe you pick up some Barber R Us Beard Balm. Probably going to have to add an extra coat. It's been a busy day today, so I'm a little disheveled. But the great thing about the Beard Balm is that the instructions, for those that don't understand how to use it, they come on the back of the tin. The new Velvet Noir is an incredible fragrance. Yeah, we'll have some of that today. And you get that wonderful product when you visit barbergazefades.net. That's how you book. Walk-ins are always welcome, but you cut the line when you go to the website. Whole lot going on in the combat sports world. Check out cageminds.com for the details on a lot of stuff that we're going to mention. Last week, there was an interesting story. We didn't bring it up. I wanted to see how it unfolded before I started to add my 2 cents. And shout out and thanks for everybody who's joining in and watching. Appreciate you guys here across the Cage Minds spectrum of social media. We're also live on the website now, cageminds.com. We have new MMA After Hours up. We spent a good 45 minutes, half the show, just talking Chimaev, Strickland, the champion, the upset. Holy crap. Great game plan. Bad energy management. Is a change in weight class in store? Me and Michael Carlisle got deep into all of that. CageMinds.com. It's MMA After Hours. That wasn't the most ridiculous story, though. Ridiculous was the buildup we thought for Chimaev Strickland. Like, were these guys really going to go at it? Were they going to shoot each other? Were they that crazed about each other? Because no one's going to do something that foolish. There's certain lines that you don't cross. Hello. I don't know why you're cursing, but just here talking, going down what I was going to be going down on my podcast. And there's more people on other social media platforms watching than the one person on YouTube. There is a certain way to act in a combat sports setting, and you don't go outside of that, or you don't pretend to be a blind guy and take a cane and try to walk right through a karate combat battle. That one is beyond me. Winged C, who I had seen get knocked out amateur competition at APFC. He's become famous for his social media antics, for fighting in street beefs, for fighting wherever, an entertaining entity who has attacked becoming a high-profile mixed martial artist with going for the high-profile viral moments, becoming an influencer, becoming a live streamer, getting a very dynamic artistic view into what he's doing, but trying to walk in the middle of the Claudio Ribeiro Curtis Melender fight led to Curtis Melender allegedly assaulting this man. We're talking about a 185-pound fight to a guy that's 135 pounds soaking wet, to a physical altercation in a hotel. The craziest part about it is that Winged C was not at the Karate Combat event as a fighter, not there just as a spectator, but he was actually there to be a social media correspondent to have fun with the athletes by the promotion's request. And then he turns the sport of Karate Combat, their open ring where you've always wondered, could somebody just walk in there, into the worst possible outcome for the promotion. They give an access that is unprecedented at Karate Combat, where you're allowed to literally stand around the battlegrounds to take in the fight in as close range as NBA. We're talking about that next level, from where there's a big pane of glass to keep the fans safe in the NHL, where you're obviously far away from the playing field from the NFL because of how far guys travel into the bench, where you're right on top of the action in the NBA. And that's what Karate Combat was giving you. And Winged C almost blows up the whole thing from a commission perspective. Their president, President Awesome, had announced that Karate Combat has went into a 9-year agreement for their own facility. Karate Combat going to be in Florida here on out. It looks like now getting their own warehouse to throw their fights out of, having their own quote unquote UFC Apex. And you bring in an influencer who intervenes into a fight, who could just blow all that up, blow up the concept, possibly blow up the relationship between the promotion and the commission. This is one of the most boneheaded stunts I've ever seen from someone that's desperate to garner attention. Wanted to see how it all played out, and it looks like Karate Combat has let Winged C go, and they're not going to be in business with him anymore. And that feels like the appropriate response. I just wanted to get that out there, because there are a lot of things in combat sports that deserve recognition for the good, and there's a lot of them that you have to point out for the bad, for the ridiculous, for the why we can't see this or have this happen again, for the black eye that it gives to sports that we're trying to give a reputation to. It's something that combat sports promotions have to furiously fight against, is allegations of just being a circus. And sometimes it's fun to be at the circus and laugh, but other times it can be very, very dangerous, and you have to draw that line. You also have to draw the line in the NBA, because I was making a joke the other day with doing a combat sports and entertainment podcast. Should we be expanding into more talk about the NHL? We're going to be talking about bare knuckle ice wars. We know they got an event coming up, and the fighting is the best part, the most energizing, the most crowd rising part about hockey. And the playoffs are going on right now. And I believe the Ducks and the Golden Knights are probably throwing blows as I speak, because it has been such a heated series so far between the two of them. NFL, more concussions probably than any fight night. But I wouldn't expect to be also thinking, do we start talking about the NBA? Because Victor Wembanyama, like a TIE fighter, is out there throwing some elbows. Incredible to think that he is not suspended after an absolute beauty into the carotid of Naz Reid. Best elbow of the week goes out to Victor Wembanyama. And I didn't expect that when you're starting to break into, how do I want to start my combat sports show for the week? Victor Wembanyama had an incredible knockout. Not one I was expecting. On the local MMA side of things, congratulations to friend of the show, Elijah Lucero, racking up a unanimous decision victory this past weekend up in Colorado. The Ami runs his record to 3-0, and I teased him beforehand. I know he loves to strike. Was he going to use his wrestling? I think I might have seen a photo where he did. We'll have to talk to him later about that one, but congratulations to the young man from Nobody's Villains. Keeping it on the local MMA side, El Paso's Travis Ariano, who was supposed to headline the CFC card recently. We had been told by his striking coach, Carlos Pacheco, he had been rebooked. LFA 232 against Luis Francioli. That is this Friday night. So if you guys have Vice TV, Foxwoods, Massanutten, Connecticut, you're in the area, that is a gem of a welterweight fight. We've seen dynamic power from Ariano and Francioli, this elongated, huge frame, precision striking welterweight. I look for that one to steal the show at LFA 232. And not long after we finished MMA After Hours today, if you guys go listen to that one, and we got done breaking down this weekend's UFC Vegas 117. It's Arnold Allen versus Melquizael Costa main event. One of the fights changed. Rodolfo Bellato is out, and Christian Edwards. Yeah, that name may sound familiar. Bellator vet, trains out of the Jacksonwink Academy. When we talked to Steve Garcia, we asked who are the guys that are knocking on the door of the UFC. Christian's name came up. When we had Mike Winklejohn on Cage Minds Fight Hour, ESPN Radio, Albuquerque 1017, the team, every Tuesday or every Saturday, you hear that one in the morning live. And then we transition over to the transition it over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts later for you guys to listen back to it. You had mentioned Christian Edwards is knocking on the door. The door has been opened, the short notice call up, and he is going to face Modestas Bukauskas. With it being a short notice fight, this one will be contested at 215 pounds. Another guy who has been honing his skills here in the Jacksonwink Academy for so many years, has had trials and tribulations, had not reached his full potential with Bellator, goes back to the regional scene and puts in some work. It's great to see Christian Edwards reap the rewards of really going in, analyzing his style, making the necessary adjustments. Christian Edwards wins over Jerome Hatch. We know what he can do in BKB. Vicious puncher. Jake Collier gets him out in under 3 minutes. And Glendale Whitley, a second round TKO. Christian Edwards, he's been at this for a while. Success in Bellator, success around the country. Now let's see if he can take that next step with this mature game that he's been imposing. We got some local boxing headlines. The next boxing card locally here in Albuquerque, New Mexico is going to be May 30th, the Johnny Tapia Memorial Fight Festival. We got Josh Torres, Clinton Chavez, and then the Tapia names start: Johnny Tapia Jr., Nico Tapia, and Jonathan Tapia. This all takes place at 1119 Candelaria. That's the former Leo's nightclub. You get Josh Torres on a 7-fight win streak in the main event against 50-fight vet Geraldo Fuentes in an 8-rounder. Or, excuse me, he's coming off of a knockout over Geraldo Fuentes. He'll be taking on 50-fight vet Diego Luque. Live music, food, drinks, a full fan experience plan for May 30th if you're able to get out there. We're going to be talking to Katherine Renee Lindenmuth with a fight week update from her layover in Denver in just a couple minutes as she's heading to Denmark. She's going to be fighting for a WBA Interim World Title. And coincidentally, today it was announced that Abraham the Hammer Pettis will be traveling to Grand Rapids, Michigan, Sunday, June 14th. Freedom 250 Fights isn't the only show in combat sports. On DAZN, you're also going to get this gem where Jonathan Gonzalez and Abraham the Hammer battle for a WBA Interim Flyweight title. You can see the Hammer add his name to the legendary list of world champions. that have won titles here out of New Mexico, and that same championship belt that Katherine Lindenmuth is fighting for this weekend in Denmark. Legacy Boxing Promotions, the family, the home, the people that have cultivated the career of Abraham Perez. Their next card, July 31st. After this, I don't want to call it just a warm-up fight, but that's what it has to be, or a tune-up fight for Josh Torres. He's going to be fighting for a UBO title in the main event of the Legacy Continues 5. In the co-main event, also UBO title fight, you get to see Christian El Puma Cabral, the New Mexico combat sports scene, especially the boxing side, doing a lot of interesting things. And on top of all that local boxing news, this week, Katherine Renee Lindenmuth is off to Denmark on the 16th. We get to see her on DAZN. It's a WBA interim title fight against Linn Sandstorm. And joining us right now from the airport on layover for a fight week check-in is Katherine.
What's up, guys?
How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. You know, we like coming in through Denver. Always got that elevation here. Just a little more of it before we head out. But no, we're excited. We're ready. We're gonna hop in and on an airplane, get to Munich, and then get all the way to Copenhagen.
When do you expect to be in Copenhagen?
I expect to be there May 13th at gosh, we should be there around 4 or 5. We fly into Munich at 2, but we will be there tomorrow, so we fly overnight, and we lose 9 hours.
Do you at all look for tricks to battle that jet lag? Do you do any research as to how to get your body to adapt to all this travel, or kind of getting used to it as this is going to be your 3rd trip around the world, I believe?
Right. I don't think I do anything to really get my body used to it. We just try to sleep a lot. I just relax. I'm about to kind of do a little workout here in the airport just to get my body moving. I like to keep things normal and just still routine, and just if I were to go to the gym and do a little workout, a fight week workout, we just try to fly overnight, and I just get as much rest as I can. I don't feel the jet lag, to be honest. I don't feel anything until we get back. So we don't get that super privilege to be there months in advance, and that's fine. I train in the best conditions, and I live in the best conditions, in New Mexico.
As we were trying to coordinate when would be the best time for you to do this check-in, it's hectic, it's busy. It sounds like it's almost good to get Katherine out of town so you take some stuff off your plate.
Exactly. I'll stop putting things on top of my plate. It's like a buffet. I'm like, oh, I need to do this. Then I start stacking, and I end up with a plate I can't eat. And it gets a little crazy, but definitely we're on the wind down. It feels good. I feel great. I feel strong. I feel energized. I'm at weight. I'm just keep it moving. So it's nice to fly at weight too. So it's going to be good.
How was this camp adjusted and formulated specifically for Linn and that challenge?
Without, giving away our secrets, we definitely trained very hard. She's a quality, champ level fighter, and I pride myself on being able to fight the best. If you want to know if you're the best, you have to fight really hard people that really do pose a danger and a challenge to you to ultimately almost lose that fight, if you don't train hard enough. She's definitely tough, and we trained very hard. We stuck into this fight camp, and it's kind of like going for the all, getting all the way in, finishing all the way through. That's kind of how I'm feeling. It's just pushing to the end. I feel like we both wanted a lot. I've seen some of her interviews. I know she's trained with some of my opponents, and that's okay. I live at my elevation. You know what I mean? My body lives at this craziness.
I know you don't want to give away a lot of the game plan, but how much of it is pushing that pace and dragging this into the late waters and truly testing and making wills?
Well, and you guys know me, I I'm really aggressive anyway. I'm I'm doing the best on my level. So basically, I'm at the best of where I'm at, and she's getting my best. You know what I mean? Like I'm coming out with all the fire and just kind of sharpening things around what we know, you know, just by knowing what we've seen from her, and knowing that I worked, hard enough, and I don't take anything away from myself, you know, going up a weight class or anything like that. Because I'm still not in my weight class. I'm still going up. This will be the third world title in 3 different weight classes.
Does that make it easier that you're kind of the smaller fighter than less weight cutting, or are you still expecting that the size, the weight, that it's going to still play some kind of part in this?
Sometimes it's like you feel like you're going in with a Goliath, but what I've noticed is that as much as you think the size might matter, I'm like, big things come in small packages. I can just say I bring it no matter who I'm up against, and they know who I am when we leave the ring.
The camp has been as you guys expected. What did Coach Rosales tell you about how he feels that you've listened and done during this camp?
He's really pleased with me. He knows that he sees me, and then the determination in the gym. He sees my work ethic, and he sees how hard I'm pushing myself, and pushing us to round off those edges that might have been a little bit jagged, that needed to be refined. And we're putting out a refined product. That's the game. Like, any losses I've ever incurred, those are just jagged edges, and they're just lessons. You start rounding off those corners, and to where you're a dangerous object.
Linn is only going to be able to adapt so much to your style, change so much of what she does. What are some of the things you observe that are kind of fundamentals of her game that you don't think she'll get away from? Some of the cornerstones.
I just my pressure. I feel like I bring something that even the people that she sparred can't bring her. I'm unique, one of a kind, and I've pushed really hard. She's a champ, and it's gonna be a great fight. I can guarantee. We steal the night, like hands down. What an opportunity to be on DAZN and just steal it away from all the boys. It's always a fun concept to get through.
You're going out of the country, big mission. We just had Mother's Day. What was Sunday like for you?
It was the same. My routine of doing everything. If we don't leave town and I have nothing to grab on to do, I'm doing a lot of stuff. So I chose my Mother's Day as really to be thankful of being a mom. So I actually, instead of the traditional, oh, we buy our mom gifts, and of course my kids got my gifts, but I made them an amazing lunch, and we spent time, and I gave them a token of my appreciation to be their mom, because it's not just they're proud, they're celebrating me. I'm celebrating that they gave me that chance to be a mom. And that's like it's my job in life, is to take care of them and love them. And they're, I got an 18-year-old in a few months, and I got a 16, I got a driver, he's 16, it's just, we're just moving on. And I just wanted to make sure my kids knew all of that. So, we had a good time. I was all over the place. I can tell you, I had back-to-back appointments everywhere, and I got it done, and kept my mind focused.
What did they say about you leaving the country, going for a world title?
They love it. They really wanted to go, but it's, as we know, it's a little expensive to go. So when I have a family, like it's just me and 3 boys, and potentially my boyfriend wanting to go, it becomes 4 extra plane tickets at a large amount of money a pop, plus hotel room, plus I have to be focused. It almost gets a little crazy, but they were really wanting to go. And, hopefully with this, maybe with some fight news coming soon in the next couple weeks, that's something that we might be able to actually accommodate for them. So our game never stops.
We ain't even done with this one, and there's already something else in the oven cooking.
Yeah, we always got something cooking. We're moving forward, and it's gonna be a good summer. It's gonna be a great year. I'm just amazed, just with the new news out with Abraham fighting for another WBA Interim World Title. That's 2 New Mexicans going to show out, and of course Holly's fighting. I was like, we're here to bring the heat. New Mexico is not going to be bypassed. And it's really amazing to see all of this just come to fruition. They cannot ignore us any further. Like, we do bring something to the table, and they can't ignore it. We are here. So
Saturday in Denmark on DAZN.
yeah.
We'll let you guys get on the plane. Katherine Renee Lindenmuth, thanks for the Fight Week update.
Thanks, Micah. Have a good day, guys.
Katherine Renee Lindenmuth, got to appreciate her taking some time out to talk with us. Well, she's just literally staying warm in the airport, getting ready for the trip to Denmark. That's going to be a long one. She's been around the world now a couple times. I know that the bigger goal is going to be MVP. Well, it's been cool going around the world. Well, it's been cool having these giant journeys. I know there's a giant desire within Katherine to be able to fight here, to perform for the local audience, to fight in front of her kids. And she says something's in the works, but I'm sure if she had the opportunity to say, fight on the 30th in the El Paso card, that would probably be of more deeper, greater meaning for her, considering it's been that the Rosales team, that Katherine Lindenmuth, they have been taking on this journey around the world, sometimes in suspicious circumstances, overcoming seriously all the odds. Jake Woodley, Oklahoma University wrestler, LFA standout middleweight, rising prospect from the Jacksonwink Academy. We're expecting him any moment here to be joining us. And man, that was actually perfect timing. Let's bring him right in right now. I was just teasing you were going to join us, and hey, look, perfect timing. There you are. Jake Woodley, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Excited to get to talk to you. I grabbed you at the gym, said, hey, let's do an interview. So I'm glad you came on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How did we get here? Like, was MMA something you were always looking at through this wrestling roots, or how did we get here to you're an MMA fighter?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to fight when I was like in middle school, high school. It was definitely something on my mind. I was a fan of MMA and the UFC and everything, and had a pretty successful college career, and then just decided to go for it. One of my teammates, who's now my manager, his dad managed a lot of fighters. Him and my dad like managed me together. So just kind of met the right people and had a good enough career that I figured I should go for it.
And a notable wrestling career. I know people knew your name just coming into MMA from the success you had at Oklahoma. How close did you feel you got to accomplishing what you wanted as a wrestler?
My goal was to be NCAA champ, and unfortunately I wasn't NCAA champ, but I made the semifinals my junior year and made the quarterfinals my senior year. So I was in the mix. I got pretty close, and, wouldn't say that I was satisfied, I guess, with my career, but I had a career that a lot of people dream of. So I can't be ungrateful about my career.
Was it a passion, a love, a determination? Like, what was wrestling for you?
Well, I started wrestling when I was 6, but just because I was playing football and a bunch of kids on the football team were wrestling, I didn't really like basketball. So I just started wrestling for fun, I guess. And, I didn't really love it that much at first, but if you place top 4 at a tournament, you got a trophy. And so, there's like 8 to 10 kids, maybe more in your bracket. So you just got to win a few matches, get a trophy. And I loved trophies when I was a little kid. So honestly, that's what kept me in it until, probably middle school, high school, when I really enjoyed it and really wanted to reach a high level at it.
Did it feel like high level? Did you feel like, I don't know, not big man on campus, but was there a pride to reaching the level that you did? Oklahoma, prestigious program like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Division I's like the it is the highest level of at least like American wrestling that you can do, folk style. The Olympics is like freestyle and Greco. So it was definitely the highest level that I could have competed at. So yeah, definitely high level.
Was there any playing around with MMA in the off season?
A little bit, but not too much because I didn't want it to get in the way. But I went to this MMA gym in Oklahoma City a few times to do some MMA sparring. I did maybe a couple jujitsu practices, but not very much, honestly. You got to stay focused and stay on the wrestling when you're wrestling in college, but definitely a little bit. And I guess during COVID, one of my roommates bought boxing gloves and pads, and we would like hold pads for each other, but we didn't really know what we were doing. But I mean, definitely got some reps in before I started MMA. Not a ton, but a little bit.
It's the start. It's the start.
Yeah.
Who were those guys? You said you were a fan of the sport. Who were the guys that were must see that you were a fan of?
I loved Anderson Silva just because he was exciting and he always put on a show. But other than him, there was a lot of wrestlers like Frankie Edgar and Rashad Evans and you know Gray Maynard and Matt Hughes. There was a lot of like college wrestlers. That's what really sparked the idea. I love football more than anything when I was a kid, but my dad got a Division II football scholarship, so I figured, that was probably the highest that I could go was Division II, and probably wasn't going to go to the NFL. But when I saw these college wrestlers fighting, it was just something that I thought was a little more realistic. It was like, oh, I could actually do that because I'm on the path to wrestling in college already. So that's what kind of sparked the idea, was all those wrestlers in the old days that were succeeding.
From that idea, what have you found? Like, how do you like this?
I mean, I love MMA. It's difficult because when I came into it, I was pretty fresh, like we just talked about. A couple MMA sparrings, little, pads in the backyard in the summertime a little bit, but like I didn't really know what I was doing. So it was humbling to have to learn jujitsu and kickboxing and MMA as a whole. It's a whole new sport that I never did. So it was difficult at first and pretty humbling to get beat up a little bit in the gym, but not that I still get beat up here and there in the gym, but I've definitely gotten a lot better and seem to win most of my rounds, but not all of them. But it's been difficult, but I feel like I'm almost there to the UFC, so things are going pretty well.
8 fights in, you've had enough fights to have tested yourself, to understand if you really want to do this. Like, when do you feel was that moment? Because I gotta imagine, coming out of wrestling, everyone always thinks there's a point where you got cracked, where you had to decide, do I really want to be getting punched or not?
Yeah, I broke my nose and like got a bunch of stitches. It wasn't in a fight; it was in practice, but it was after my first fight. So I was training for my second fight and broke my nose, got a bunch of stitches, and that was kind of a time I remember, like after I got the x-rays and everything, I was in the hospital. It was like, man, do I really want to do this? But I do really want to do this. So, a little broken nose wasn't about to stop me.
How long was that internal discussion with yourself?
About 10 seconds, maybe.
You were like, do I want to? Yeah. So for you, it was
Yeah.
almost, I want to order a cheeseburger. Yeah, okay.
Right, yeah.
Did you expect to connect this way, to have this feeling, to be this committed to MMA when you made the decision to come over to it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was all in when I started. I actually thought, honestly, because I did pretty well when I went to I went twice in college to MMA sparring, only twice. But I did pretty good when I went there, so I like really thought I thought I was gonna rise even faster, to be honest with you. When I moved to California, right after college for a few years and then moved to Albuquerque last year. But when I moved to California, I don't know if it was because I was training with some better guys or I don't know what it was, but well, another thing is, if you go to MMA practice, maybe one days the coach is like, this round is boxing only. that, and after doing like going to a Muay Thai gym and doing only Muay Thai, can't wrestle, I definitely got humbled a little bit and was like, oh, didn't fight for, like, I trained for a year before I even fought. But when I was coming out of college, I thought I was just going to I thought I'll fight in 2 months. And I started training and I was like, oh, maybe I should wait a little bit.
So there was almost an immediate reality check.
Yeah, I had a pretty good reality check when I started training, but it's all right. I got through that part, and so here I am now.
Here you are now. You mentioned from Oklahoma to California. What was it that made you decide to head out west right away to go that direction for training?
Well, like I said, my college teammate and his dad managed me. And so they were from Huntington Beach, and they had a family friend that was opening up a wrestling gym that was looking for some wrestling coaches. And there's good training in Southern California. That's like kind of where MMA, at least in the U.S., kind of started in a way, I'd say, is in Southern California. So I just, thought that'd be a good fit and moved out there and was at the beach coaching and training, and it was pretty fun while it lasted, for sure.
So how awkward is that? You're a wrestler and you've got these credentials and you're used to being an athlete, and then you get to the awkwardness of learning how to punch, learning how to kick, and you're like, I'm an athletic guy, but you're probably back to having these moments where you're like, why can't I get this?
Yeah, it was definitely hard, and it's like almost got to spar with guys who aren't at like the level of athleticism or like, previous success, but you just gotta humble yourself and get to it.
You do those things. At what point does the connection with Albuquerque with Jacksonwinks, or where does that come about, and how does that form?
Well, the father son combo, the dad, he has a relationship with Greg Jackson, and he had told me from the beginning that I should go to Jackson and Wink, but I love the beach, I love California, and I was like, well, there's good training out here, I might as well stay out here. So I was in California for a while, but then I lost a fight, and that kind of sparked the idea a little bit to leave, and California was really expensive, and it was tough out there. And then I went to a wedding in Oklahoma, and I went and trained in Oklahoma City, and then I went down to Fortis MMA in Dallas. And when I was going to all these places, I just kind of realized that maybe I should leave California. I love California and everything, and I had a lot of good coaches and training partners around me, but the number of big guys was tough. One of the main gyms I was at in Long Beach, Body Shop, it was a good gym, but most days I was the biggest guy there. I had a lot of 70 pounders to train with. There was an 85 pounder, but he wasn't really consistent in coming to practice. And it was just like, and like 70 pounders are big enough to train with for the most part, but when I was going and seeing these other gyms, they got a bunch of big guys. And then I came to check out Albuquerque just for a week. I just wanted to check it out. And I mean, depending on the day, there's anywhere from at sparring, there's anywhere from like, a really low day would be like 4 big guys, but a big day would be like 10 plus big guys. And it's just really rare to have those kind of training partners. And obviously Greg Jackson's like, a huge name in MMA, and Mike Winklejohn, world champion kickboxer. So I kind of felt like they had it all here. So I just, decided to leave the beach, which was a hard decision, but I just feel like it was better for my career.
So that's the optimal place for you. If we're talking about let's go on a vacation, Jake gets a little getaway couple days, you want to head to the beach?
Absolutely. Yeah. After all my fights, I drive to Huntington Beach and, coach a little wrestling, go to the beach and see some friends and, for a couple weeks, and then back to reality.
How hard was college then, the landlockedness in Oklahoma?
It wasn't so bad. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so that's kind of a landlocked state. I mean, there's like Lake Erie and stuff, but mostly a landlocked state, so I was pretty used to it. And Norman's a really fun college town, so I had a lot of fun in college and had some good teammates, and so it was a good time.
Okay. Then where did the love of the beach develop? Talking about Pittsburgh, Oklahoma, California seems to be the first time you saw it. Was that just the instant moment and you were happy?
Well, like in the summer we would go to the beach sometimes, like me and my family. So I always loved the beach, and maybe it was because I didn't have the beach all the time that made me love it. So when I finally went out there, it was great.
You transition to Jacksonwink. And just so that people understand it, what do you feel are the benefits of having the bigger bodies to work with?
Yeah, it's a huge advantage to get like different kinds of looks, like the big guys we have there. Like I said, at the gym in Long Beach that I was at, a lot of times I was the biggest guy there. And it's like, not only do I have other 85ers to train with, but I got 205ers, heavyweights, 85s, and I still have the 170 pounders like I used to have. So, if I want someone a little faster, I can go with 170 pounders. I got guys my weight, and then I got guys bigger, which is really important with simulating the height, because my past, not this last opponent, but the one before, sorry, um, sorry about that.
It's okay.
The one before, he was 6'7". Like, it's really hard to find a body that's 6'7". So, but I actually have someone at the gym here. He's also from California, but he's 6'7". Sam Fournier, and then I got a training partner, Christian Edwards, he's like 6'5" ish. And then so getting some of that height is huge, and just getting different kind of looks, speed, strength, technique, height. It's just a really big thing.
Before you came on, we were sharing the breaking news. Christian Edwards has gotten the call. He'll be fighting this weekend in the UFC against Modestas Bukauskas, up at 215 pounds. From what you've observed or from how you guys have went at it in sparring, what do you feel makes Christian a unique challenge or martial artist in the cage?
Well, he's pretty tall. He's like 6'5", and a lot of 205ers are tall, but I still think he's probably on like the bigger end of that spectrum. And he's very well rounded. He's a good striker, but like he told me he started with jujitsu. Like maybe when he was in like middle school or high school, he started jujitsu. So he's a good striker, but then when you go to the ground, he's good at jujitsu too. So he's really well. I'd say like the biggest thing with him is that he's really well rounded, and he's tall.
Recently, I got to talk with Steve Garcia. Recently, I got to talk with Mike Winklejohn. Both of them, when I said, all right, everybody's going to want to know who's the hot guys coming out of the gym, who's the names to mention, they're already 1-for-1 because they threw out Christian, and then your name came up in the conversation. What does that mean to you to be considered like that as the guy they're looking at as one of the next couple that could get the call?
Yeah, that's huge. You know, Coach Wink, he's seen the best, obviously, with like John Jones and Holly Holm and George St. Pierre. This gym has seen some of the best guys. So to hear something from him, that means a lot, because he's seen the best. It's not like, if you haven't seen the best, you probably think a lot of guys could be the best, and then you find out they're not. So, and same thing with Steve Garcia. He's been at the gym for a really long time, and he's fighting at a really high level right now. So they both have just seen a lot of high level guys. So it's nice to hear that I'm up next.
When they're considering you like that, do you think LFA title will get you there? Do you think contender series next? Because we do have that coming up here in a couple months, and works out great for you with the fight coming up here in June.
Yeah, I think if I get a finish with this next fight, then hopefully it's contender series or UFC after that. And if not, then yeah, hopefully I fight for the title. And I mean, either way, I feel like this fight might propel me to the top, or maybe I'll do one more after that, or two more, but I'm really close. I'm hoping by the end of the year that I'm in the UFC.
James Romero, catches you in an anaconda choke. From that first bump in the road as a martial artist, the win streak you've ran on now, what do you feel like has been the adjustment or the lesson learned from that fight?
Well, I ended up moving to Albuquerque kind of because of that fight, so that was a big thing with that. And also, it's not like, obviously if I could have that fight back, I would love to win that fight. But it kind of slowed me down a little bit. I was 4-0 at the time with 2 finishes and a finish in LFA. And it was like at the time I was basically at the same point that I am right now. I was a fight or two away from being on the Contender Series or UFC. And I don't know if I was necessarily ready for that yet. It was really early in my career, so it maybe was a blessing in disguise to kind of slow me down, and I've gotten so much better. I mean, that was like a year and a half ago, and I'm so much better than I was then. So let's say I finish him and one more, and then I get into the UFC a little too early and I go, 1-2 or 1-3, and then they cut me, and then it's hard to get back in. So, that loss definitely sucked. I wish I could have it back. I would also honestly love to have a rematch, even though I don't know how much that makes sense, but just competitively, I'd like to get it back. But I think at the end of the day, it might have even been good for me.
How important is it to get the rounds? Because it started to become a topic, it seems like now in UFC circles, that there are these instances where maybe we are rushing guys a little too much. It's hard to deny an unbeaten prospect, but you look at boxing, it's usually to the double digit amount of fights before guys are taking on these big level challenges. So do you see that there is a benefit to just being able to get more rounds, more fights in?
Yeah, for sure. And that's what a lot of people told me a few years ago, and what they still tell younger fighters and stuff is that, take your time. Because something I have noticed is that, man, it's hard to get back into the UFC. It's pretty rare. You look at someone's fight history, and when you're out of the UFC, I mean, you gotta really, really do well to get back in. Whereas something like Contender Series, I've noticed that if you lose on the Contender Series, a lot of times those guys, they go get a win or two in the regional scene and they go back to the Contender Series the next year. So I think, the timing of getting into the UFC is pretty big.
Coming off a unanimous decision, a fight before that, the ground and pound is on full display with getting the first round TKO. At this point in your evolution, are you almost more satisfied with getting the finishes or with a dominating 15 minutes?
Well, definitely the finishes, just because, they say that they want to see finishes. That's what the UFC preaches. So definitely want to get a finish. But at the same time, getting that decision, it's another 15 minutes in the cage. So it does add up some experience time if you get a decision.
How comfortable do you feel now in the cage as a striker, as a full martial artist? Because I'm sure competitively wrestling, all of that has come natural. So there's a natural kind of comfortability, but the foreign stuff, how comfortable overall do you feel as a martial artist now?
I'm a lot more comfortable now. I'm not as it's hard as a wrestler, because you're kind of scared to get knocked out and scared to get submitted. But you need to, if you're a wrestler, you got to wrestle. But I've been doing it long enough where I'm a lot less scared of a submission and a knockout too. Like the knee up the middle while you shoot, I'm not super terrified of that, because I got my own system on how to get someone down safely, and how to get to the good ground and pound positions and everything.
How good of a challenge is David Wright for you coming up?
Yeah, he's a good opponent. He's 6-2. He's got all finishes. Yeah, he's a tough opponent, probably the toughest opponent I've had so far, but not unbeatable by any means. So I'm gonna go out there and try to find the finish for sure.
A bunch of rear naked chokes and TKOs on his record. Does this send a statement if you're able to finish a guy who's a finishing machine, who's on a hot streak?
I hope so. That's what I'm hoping, because I would love this. I mean, I love LFA and I appreciate everything they've done for me, but at the same time, I'd love for this to be my last one with them. In a good way. Like, I go to the UFC or Contender Series after this.
And I also heard you might be going to the White House.
Yeah, I am cornering Josh Hokett at the White House. Yeah.
What are your expectations for that kind of experience, to be at the UFC, to be at a high profile fight, to be that close and to be involved?
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. It might get me around or in front of like the right faces. I might shake the right hands, but I'm also I've never been to the White House, so I'm excited to go to the White House. And this is a historic card, and it's pretty crazy that I get to be a part of it. And I'm excited for Josh. I think he's gonna go. I mean, he's never lost, and I don't think this is gonna be the time that he does. So I think he's gonna go in there and probably get a finish, and then I mean, he's ranked 5 right now, so he goes and gets a finish on the White House. Maybe he gets a title shot or a title eliminator fight. So super exciting for the gym. Also, Steve Garcia's fighting. I'm not cornering him, but I'll still be able to support him a little bit. And same with him. He's ranked pretty high in the UFC. If he can go beat Diego Lopez or finish him, then he might get a title shot too. So it's a really big weekend for Jacksonwink.
Does that kind of electricity kind of radiate throughout the building? We got Holly with her fight coming up here in a couple weeks. Josh, as we mentioned, and you just mentioned Steve, both on the cusp of world title fights, it looks like, with big enough performances. Is that kind of some energy that you can feel in the building?
Yeah, for sure. Steve's really getting ready with his sparring and everything. I've been watching his sparring, and everyone at the gym is doing what they can to help him prepare. And it's really it's an exciting time for the gym.
Obviously said you'll be in the corner of Josh Hokett. Without sharing any of the game plan or stuff, what is it that you've seen and acknowledged through Josh's game that makes him a handful and a dangerous heavyweight?
Well, this last fight is the first time that it was really displayed, but Josh works really hard and he's got great cardio. And that's something, he had 2 first round finishes in the UFC and a second round finish. And he had all finished. This was his first decision. So, and a lot of his finishes were in the first round. So this last fight was the first time that everyone got to see his cardio, because that's one of his best attributes, is that he works really hard in the gym and he makes sure that he can fight hard for 15 minutes.
Is there any Jake Woodley character that's going to come out, or are you going to start cutting wild, crazy promos after spending too much of a week with Josh like that?
I don't think so. It's actually something he's kind of on my head about. He tells me that I gotta do something. I gotta be more exciting and do stuff like that. But honestly, I don't know. I just don't know if I can. I don't know if it's in me to act all crazy. And there's a lot of fighters that make a lot of money and have success and don't act crazy. So I don't know if that's in the cards for me, but Josh is good at it and it's really working out for him. So maybe I should take his advice.
Currently implementing his skills in the LFA with a quest to get to the UFC. Jake Woodley, literally his name has been coming out of the mouths of some of the top guys at Jacksonwink, talking about the next guy up, June 19th, LFA 235. David Wright is the man that's in his way, that he's looking to finish. It was truly a pleasure to get to talk to you tonight, Jake.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
We'll have you on again definitely soon.
All right, sounds good.
You have a good night, sir.
Thank you. You too.
Jake Woodley, wrestler, turning into martial artist, a worker, a finisher now. We're seeing all those skills culminate and come together. Got a glimpse into his life, his career, thanks to Robbie Ray Images. Getting the photos and the images to build your business or the memories to keep for a lifetime. A glimpse into Jake Woodley, thanks to Robbie Ray Images. It's My Fight Show. I'm Mika Frankl. First hour coming in the books, the exclusive hour that you can see on Comcast, thanks to TalkABQ. Here coming up in about 30 minutes, we're going to have our special guest from Duke City Championship Wrestling, NWA New Mexico. We're going to talk about their future, what's building. I got a whole bunch more questions, and whoever ends up joining us is going to have to put up with them because they told me it's going to be a special guest tonight joining me. Next week, we might have something cooking also because the New Mexico boxing scene going crazy. Can't believe all the big stuff. Appreciate Katherine Renee Lindenmuth joining us earlier with a check-in from Denver. Appreciate her from that on the layover, ready to head to Denmark. WBA interim flyweight title on the line. Same belt. Abraham Pettis now gets to fight for Grand Rapids, Michigan, June 14th against Jonathan Gonzalez. Go over to cageminds.com for all the details. We have details on the full card now for May 30th, Johnny Tapia Memorial Fight Festival. Josh Pitbull Torres main eventing that card before he main events the July 31st card at Embassy Suites, Legacy Boxing Promotions. The Legacy continues 5. Whole bunch of updates on the website, including a whole bunch of news in the world of bare knuckle. I don't know if you guys watched it, but I was totally enthralled last week. Blood for blood. Yes, blood for blood happened. It went off. Me and Chris DeSantiago talked about it last week. I wish a little bit of the transitions from the concerts to the fights would have been a little more seamless. I think we could have used a little less random interviews with celebrities telling us how awesome it was. And I'm here to tell you, it was incredibly awesome. There were some short sets with the fights and a little bit of improvised, but Black Label Society still rocking. Incredible to see Alex the Terrible go out there, put his vocals on display, put a performance like that, and then still have the energy to fight, to still be aggressive, to still, even after getting knocked down, to come back, wild right hand catching an overzealous Cameron Delano and getting his own knockdown. Not to be Terrible's night, as even the show was built around him. He runs into a right hand in the 3rd round. Main event winner, now 2-0 in BKFC, is Cameron Delano. I don't know if he's ready for some of the big name fights that he's calling out for, but so far of the influencers, he is proving the metal that's in his hands, to be the heaviest hitter, to be the most brutal, to be the most willing to engage, and to take the violence, the durability, the ferocity, all on display, took damage, and still came forward. A great night for Cameron Delano. The performance was incredible from Alex the Terrible, and it's not like Jake Boswick didn't perform beautifully. We can be talking about him coming up in the rankings soon, making noise there at middleweight. Does he deserve a bigger opportunity? Not to mention Kratos. He fought at heavyweight, only weighed in at 213. More cruiserweights. We saw Chris Camozzi exit the company and retire. Kratos, the rapid fire, jackhammer, uppercuts in the clinch, heavily muscled, big dude, looked tough, wore a little bit of damage. I think we found a lot of reasons to be excited. And Taylor Starling, as needed, dispatch of Sydney Smith coming in on short notice. Taylor, a perennial title challenger, nice adjustment. She was going left hook, overhand right, consistently telegraphing it to a point, switched that up with the right hook finally coming across instead of the windmill and connected with the jaw. Very first left hook she landed of the fight had actually cut open Smith. So a great performance, I thought, from Taylor Starling, and it's the one that she needed to have. So from Kratos to Jake Boswick to Taylor Starling, all the way up to the main event winner, Cameron Delano, I'm really intrigued to see what you do with all 4 of them. I'm also intrigued to see if we can make this happen again and maybe even expand upon the idea. And unfortunately, the biggest miss of the night to me, from all the great, I really hoped they were going to tell the fighters the bands will play you out. We did not need to have pumped in music when you already had the live bands. The live bands needed to play out the athletes. So close. A suggestion for next time for blood when they do it again, because it looked like from the success, from the response of the crowd, from having, it turns out in the Bare Knuckle show, they announced Brian Sosha and Chris Lytle in the mosh pits. It seemed like everyone had a jolly metal time. Go back and watch the fights on the BKFC app. You can see the performances, but apparently you can't hear them. I watched it live. Again, thought it was beautiful. Now, as we head towards a bunch of BKFC news, which is available at cageminds.com, on 10 days' notice, Michael Laramie is replacing Nate Maness, who has not been medically cleared, to face Jamel Herring in the main event of BKFC 89 to crown a new BKFC bantamweight champion. Justin Ibarola vacating the title. Nate Maness, his medical scans apparently revealing something that needs to be dealt with. He's not getting approved by the commission. Maness, in a social media post, went on to announce that he has had some bulging discs in his back and was already planning, with a successful night, to triumphantly, with a world title, announce his retirement from combat sports. He'll not be able to have that opportunity. And unfortunately, the UFC vet who has been around the world will take the retirement. And that gives Michael Laramie an absolute massive opportunity on 10 days' notice to shock the world against a former boxing world champion. Michael with 3 wins, all 3 first-round knockouts, does have 1 L in the column to the former champion, Keith Richardson, also a fight that ended in the first round. So if nothing else, this one is now going to be a bit more explosive. I'd say that's the difference when you talk about Maness' style versus Laramie. Laramie is going to bring it. He is going to go for the finish immediately, where I think Maness was going to be a bit more technical, want to use his length and see if he could work from the outside and possibly play a dangerous game of point fighting with the technician. Now I think we have a brawler going against a world-class technician. The BKFC calendar is quite packed and quite crazy. July 3rd, Liberty Brawl, Philadelphia, Xfinity Mobile Arena. Been hearing rumbling that card is going to be absolutely massive. We have been trying to effort Johnny Garbarino. I believe he is going to have a huge fight on that card for us to get him on. Lex Ludlow to come back on. A lot of huge rumors around July 3rd, and can't wait for BKFC to make those official. The promotion for a third time will be heading over to Italy, this time debuting in Naples, July 18th. And the very next day, July 19th, back here in the States, it's BKFC Fight Night Nashville. Main event already announced at cageminds.com. Today, the co-main event was made official as friend of the show, unbeaten Nathan Rivera, who has been trying to draw the ire of champion Kai Stewart. He will be taking on unbeaten in the promotion, but much less experienced, Trey Martin. BKFC the very next week, continuing the international expansion. Montevideo, Uruguay on July 25th, a international debut. And the company will be back in Sturgis for the 3rd year in a row in August. And the fights will open up for death metal legends Megadeth. So the marriage between metal and BKFC even continuing to the world's largest motorcycle rally, 3rd year in a row that they will be there. Also, a return to Clearwater has been announced for October 24th or 23rd. We had just seen Ryan Reber versus Jox Oxidine. Excuse me, I was trying to, for some reason, merge their names together. We had just seen the card in Clearwater, and already a promise that in the fall, BKFC will be back there. This weekend, your bare knuckle action comes to us from Bare Knuckle Boxing and from Manchester, England. Mayhem in Manchester. The BKB making a major push into the UK market. They've really been heavily focused there in the last 6 to 8 months. This feels like one of the promotion's biggest European cards. The AO Arena in Manchester, multiple title fights, veteran names from boxing, and several dangerous UK bare knuckle specialists also filling up the card. The biggest storyline of them, obviously, is the former gloved world champion, Paulie Malignaggi, who's been adamant about the lack of healthcare in the UK, the horrific damage that bare knuckle has done to his hands, the facial lacerations. The 45-year-old, though, with all that being said, is going to step into the ring to challenge Rolando D for his world championship. The rest of the card is quality, loaded with sure to be violent, high pressure matchups. With the super welterweight championship at the top of this card, D has adopted extremely well to bare knuckle. He's aggressive, composed in close exchanges. He's willing to get in there in the pocket and feel the fire and return with his own. Understands how to work in the pocket without the gloves. His pressure style is naturally suited for BKFC, and especially with the narrow, small corners that the Trigon provides him. A heavy body puncher, the excellent composure in chaos, a strong clinch, and that experience in bare knuckle, I think, can't be understated against the Malignaggi, who's one of the most technically gifted pure boxers to ever enter the bare knuckle realm. Even late in his career, his timing and accuracy are elite. And we're talking about a guy with infinite amounts of experience in boxing compared to his competition. 45 years old. How much of that experience is a value versus how much is that age and the possibility of being over the hill going to go against you? Bare knuckle durability, different than the glove boxing durability. Is there ring rust? The damage to his hands, will there be any hesitation? You wonder, will he want to expose his hands, or is he going to be hesitant to let go as hard as he needs to? It's not out of the realm to think, could there be a stoppage in between rounds just because of the damage that could be sustained to his hands? I kind of like Rolando D in this fight because he's built for this environment, because he's been here. But Paulie Malignaggi feels foolish to underestimate a guy with this much technical skill, with this much precision and accuracy. But it is a dangerous proposition in bare knuckle, and especially how much is the athletic advantages, the speed, the instincts, the reaction time, how much is that just going to be on D's side because of his youth versus how much will the experience, the knowledge, the composure that Malignaggi has be his keys to pulling off what would be a huge proposition. Everyone from Jamel Herring to Paulie Malignaggi trying to catch up with the feat made by Austin Trout. Friend of the show, Javon Wright, is going to be defending his welterweight championship in the co-main event against Dan Gittins. This might actually be the best pure fight on the card. Wright, a strong champion, mental tenacity, his pacing has become better and better. He is durable, and he is comfortable in ugly exchanges. He's willing to bite down on the mouthpiece and just get hit. Gittins is undefeated, finally getting his shot, explosive, confident, and throws with bad intentions. Can Gittins stay disciplined? It's a very close fight, and this one, I wonder if it comes down to that championship experience. The fact that the commitment from Javon Wright has been of this championship mentality and mindset. Again, you watch this on Vice. Cullum Crane versus Estevan Party, also one to highlight. This is a serious fight of the night potential. Fast combinations versus a one-shot power puncher in Pardee. Dangerous counter puncher also from Pardee. Well, their sharp pressure fighter from Callan Shane, a guy that I've also gone to talk to previously, English vet and a icon, James Kennelly. Classic matchup of two grinders. Will the damage accumulation all those wars, or will it be the pressure style that Kennelly can impose, make the difference? Power Slap 20 is also this weekend. Yeah, we've been diving into the Power Slap. Chelsea Dotson, Johnny Magna. Thanks to our Duke City Championship Wrestling ties. If some of our friends are jumping in this, we'll give it a deeper look. Also talked to Robert Trujillo on ESPN Radio Albuquerque recently. And Robert Trujillo is defending in the main event against rising prospect Hayden Johnson, a card that mixes experienced veterans with newcomers trying to break into the rankings. Trujillo is one of the cleanest strikers in Power Slap. Excellent balance. His chin, his timing. He rarely wastes his shots. He usually wins his exchanges through accuracy instead of wild power. It's the MMA background that makes him very good at placement. Johnson 1-0, a big, nasty knockout, brutal, that grabbed the attention and boosted him into such a high-profile sport. Johnson's unpredictable. We haven't really seen him go many rounds. Meanwhile, Trujillo has proven composure. I always, though, wonder about the danger of the wear and tear, the mileage that comes in this sport with the lack of defense when you're taking these blows. Trujillo is the safer pick, but who knows what the potential of the power is coming from Johnson. Co-main event, we have, I believe this is ranked heavyweights in Dorian Perez versus Nate Bernard. Perez is one of the heaviest hitters in the division and has fought the top competition, while Bernard is durable and dangerous. We're going to see what gives in this one. This is two power hitters for Power Slap looking to absolutely blister each other. Anthony Blackburn versus Andrew Provost. Another one to highlight that could have title implications. This one is technically the most competitive matchup on the card, and looking at betting wise, Blackburn has become one of the promotion's most reliable contenders. Will Provost is experienced and tough, but sometimes struggles against the elite power. We'll see which one gives first. So you get Power Slap, you get some bare knuckle from BKB. Absolutely massive card for them coming from the UK, and you watch that one on Vice. The Power Slap is available to you live and free on YouTube. Looking forward to a really interesting weekend of combat sports where you also have the question to be answered. What will the Ronda Rousey Gina Carano fight look like? What do we expect this to look like? 145 pounds. Ronda Rousey started her career 145, made her mark 135. Hesitant it looked like for the Cyborg fight to have happened at 145. Gina Carano, the bigger girl, she is the heavier hitter. She has been away from combat sports longer. The durability, if there was any questions about the two in their heyday, it was questions about after the knockout losses to Holm and Nunez, not to mention her own memoirs talking about her concussion symptoms. What is there physically left in the tank for Ronda Rousey? Gina Carano has been away, though, much longer, 7 more years than Ronda Rousey. What was this camp like? We know that it's been well over a year that this fight had been cultivated, that the two had been discussing it with the UFC, finally going at MVP and Netflix. What do the two of them look like as athletes after so long away? My instincts are to tell you this one is fast and furious. This one has to go down just like Ronda Rousey fights normally did. It ends quick. It ends violently. It most likely ends by an armbar. That is where her advantages lie, in using the judo and in going for the kill shot, just like she did throughout her entire career. On the Gina Carano side, you got to defend a couple takedowns and test the chin. You got to see, is there durability issues? Has that chin really diminished that much? Are you able to put Ronda Rousey out? Being in the gym and being under the bright lights are two different things. I've seen many of fighters prepare for a long time to get under the bright lights, and everything is different when the cage door locks. These two are professionals, and I don't expect there to be almost not an adrenaline rush, not a scared factor, but with 5 5-minute rounds scheduled, I don't know if we get a desired competitive product if we get 25 minutes of this fight. Well, they're two all-time legends and pioneers for women's mixed martial arts. And to a lot, this is a super fight that has been a dream matchup. This should look like a Ronda Rousey fight. It'd be interesting if it's not, and if this goes the wrong direction, how long could it last? And how does Carano get it done? You figure she has to land a big strike. It's in exchanging in the pocket, and it's probably a punch. But most likely, Ronda Rousey gets the armbar. I'm kind of leaning that way. Co-main event, Nate Diaz, not argumentative at this point with Mike Perry. Nate Diaz, who has become a cult-like figure in combat sports, has hit a echelon of my fights sell themselves. Even though extra promotion is never a bad thing, you even saw it in the conversations that MVP has been putting out where they're having the face-to-face with the two athletes. Nate's not really about the conversation because Nate already knows me and Mike are going to fight. If you didn't like the BMF fight, which unfortunately we'll bring that back up again, if you didn't like Charles Oliveira's grappling heavy attack of Max Holloway, this is going to be your fight. This is going to be bare knuckle-esque without bare knuckle, with the gloves on. This is going to be a striker versus a striker. Mike Perry comes in as a favorite, younger, faster at this point, been more active, and the scar tissue. The scar tissue matters greatly to me because we haven't seen a fight where Nate Diaz hasn't been busted open and leaking in forever. That's going to play a factor when you think about how the BMF title fight originally with Jorge Masvidal was ended due to a cut. The heavy amounts of scar tissue make it more likely that I believe Mike Perry stops Nate Diaz here. It's going to be a TKO. I don't believe it's just with strikes, but I believe that scar tissue, something opens up and eventually this fight gets stopped. We're looking forward to it. It's free. It's Netflix. It's going to be a good time. If you haven't seen Saladin Parnas, 2-division octagon champion, his skills, they're going to be special to watch. You get to see Adriano Moraes. He now gets one of the best kept secrets on the regional scene of MMA, a belt collector in Puni Nakuda, monster wrestler versus a huge flyweight who's even scored a victory over Demetrius Johnson. Unfortunate that it's not the Muhammad Mugayev fight versus Adriano Moraes, but there are some nuggets to look at on this card, not to mention the return of Francis Ngannou. Overwhelming, massive favorite, expected to blast his way through Felipe Lins. Leads me to intrigue to wonder, could he be fighting the winner of Robles de Spain versus Junior Dos Santos? Both of them battling also on the main card. And the gold medalist coming in, or the bronze medalist in Taekwondo, coming in as a massive favorite over the former UFC champion. Not sure if that one's surprising to you guys or not. Junior Dos Santos, though, has been out of circulation. We haven't seen him in over a year. Had success in the game bred, bare knuckle, winning their heavyweight title in MMA. We haven't seen him since. And to Spain, well, he had a regrettable run with UFC, has been an absolute force in karate combat, now returning back to MMA, looking for a bigger prospect. So you got the traditional boxer versus the blitzing style with the crazy angles that the Spain brings. Most likely 4 out of the 5 fights, because you got a 5-fight main card, most likely 4 out of these 5 not going to be into that 5th round. I'd say first round finishes, barn burner to make a statement. Explosive, viral finishes is what we're expecting from the main card. UFC back at home in the Apex. Malcazio Costa looking to break into the top 10. He's already a ranked featherweight, but he gets the opportunity to get a lot higher up in the rankings when he takes on Arnold Allen. Me and Michael Carlisle broke that one down earlier today. MMA After Hours. check that one out at cageminds.com. We've got one more guest coming up tonight. We're going to be talking pro wrestling. We're going to have a special guest from Duke City Championship Wrestling, NWA New Mexico, joining us here a couple minutes at the bottom of the hour. Again, a thank you to Katherine Renee Lindenmuth. Quick check up on her from a layover in Denver as she's heading to Denmark, getting ready for her interim WBA title fight this weekend. You can watch on DAZN. That one was brought to you by Barber Gabe's Fades. Feeling good, looking good, hoping that Catherine's gonna fight good this weekend, and you want to have a good weekend. The first place to stop by is Barber Gabe's Fades to get you look updated, get cleaned up, feel good, look good, have a good weekend. Barber Gabe's Fades. And if you got the beard, you're going to definitely want to check out the Barbers Are Us Beard Balm, the Velvet Noir, back in stock. And if you don't know how to use it, directions on the back. New cologne aroma, definitely a favorite in this household. Check it out exclusively at barbergabesfades.net, and you pick it up at Barber Fades. That's the Barber Are Us Beard Balm. Angelo Leo last week does his part of the deal, makes weight, and then Reese Alim does not. Jorge Hernandez, Southwest Fight News, not able to join us again this week, but last week across social media was keeping us up to date on the ongoings as Alim missed weight by 2 pounds, 2.8 pounds the first time, 2 pounds the second time. Good negotiating skills, Leo camp, as they still get paid in full for the opportunity. And we are going to be efforting Jorge Hernandez in the coming weeks so that we can see if he has an update on what direction we can expect Angelo Leo taking his career in next, as he is our Angelo Leo aficionado correspondent. But unfortunate news, disappointing, a full camp worth of effort up in Santa Fe. Saw guys like Matthew Diamond Boy Griego also getting involved and lending a helping hand. Great to see the New Mexico fighters working together. And the ridiculous, unfortunate disappointment of, well, one, people not realizing that I'm live, because we're live every Tuesday right here. Live every Tuesday night, 6 to 8 Mountain Time. That's 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. All my friends should know. We do this kind of weekly. Not a surprise. Whole bunch of news at cageminds.com, from BKFC over to the UFC with the stunning upset by Sean Strickland, to what's going on in the local boxing scene, a whole bunch of news. So we have that all up on the website. So yeah, that was an interesting one. Yeah. Let's see if this works, guys. We're gonna try something right here real quick. Nope, that one's not gonna connect. Okay. Just a couple minutes away, we're gonna have a friend from Duke City Championship Wrestling, NWA New Mexico, coming by to update us. Birthday bash number 3. Matthew Robles, the scoundrel, his plan all comes together. The change of heart by Pretty City Express, not accepted by Robles. Get La Migra now the tag team champions. For Sal, I don't know if Matthew Robles thought he was going soft. Thought he was pretty hardened when we had him on here a couple weeks ago. But now Brian Idol, Duke City Championship Wrestling, heavyweight champion, getting it done in less than honest fashion. What's next for NWA New Mexico? June 12th, they will be making a debut. Battle on Bridge Street, Las Vegas, New Mexico. Back here a week later, June 20th, El Rey Theater. Can't wait to see how things come to a head. Tomorrow, Pro Wrestling Hours. We're not going to get into everything pro wrestling today because I'm sure tomorrow, Pro Wrestling After Hours, when I join Michael Carlisle again on the After Hours Podcast Network, you find all episodes at cageminds.com. We're going to get into the backlash. We're going to get into Jacob Fatu not willing to acknowledge Roman Reigns. We're going to get into Darby Allin being the craziest extreme acrobat this side of Jeff Hardy. Whole bunch of stuff in the pro wrestling world to get into at Pro Wrestling After Hours. But for some of the ins and outs and other stuff with the business, we're going to be having a conversation about those inner workings here in just a couple minutes. Watching my fight show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Get your energy with Dubby. Hydrate with Hydro Bar by Kagan right here locally, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Jake Woodley, appreciate him coming on earlier. Oklahoma University wrestler. Greg Jackson, Mike Winklejohn in his corner. When I asked Mike Winklejohn and Steve Garcia, who's next up, they said Jake Woodley. They said, look at this guy. They also said Christian Edwards. Edwards getting the short notice call. Going to fight Modestas Bukauskas this weekend. They also mentioned Lawan Davis. That's the one you guys got to keep an eye on, who you haven't heard of yet. Looking to break the cusp from the Peak Fighting Championship level into the LFA. I'm pretty sure we could see him on the Contender Series very soon. Turn our attention real quick as we're waiting for our special guest. I was thinking I was getting a message, not here yet. Waiting on our special guest from Duke City Championship Wrestling to join us. Circle back around to the local boxing scene as it's the major news at cageminds.com right now with Abraham Perez getting the WBA interim title fight. Looked like last week there was many rumors and speculation about a fight that was expected to come together for him for a world title fight and didn't. One door opens or one door closes, another one opens. And it's kind of funny how that works, where he was in talk for a title fight. You just wait a week and it does come together. Different champion, different title, but still now Jonathan Gonzalez and the biggest opportunity of the Hammer's career, hard-earned, 14-0, well-deserved. We know that was on the cusp of big things, fighting Matthew Diamond Boy Grego on Top Rank before the tragedy happened. That has uprooted everything. It has been a long road back. It has been a diligent effort to regain the confidence he had in the ring. And now to see his debut on DAZN in a high-profile main event in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Interesting to see how this one plays out against a former world champion. So absolutely elated for the Perez family, for all the work to pay off for Abraham to get this kind of huge opportunity, a big name fight. Josh Pitbull Torres, who had just fought in the co-main event of the Legacy Continues 4 under Abraham. It's less than, what are we looking at? 2 months later for him to, it's less than a month later, basically, to return to fighting at the May 30th Tapia event. And then to already have July on the books for the UBO title fight, the Pitbull The Pitbull, 7-fight win streak, said he wanted to be more active, said he wanted to make the most of this run, this stage of his career. We're talking about April, we're talking about May, we're talking about a title fight in July. The dogs are going to be barking. Josh Pitbull Torres hitting the ground running in a way that we haven't seen him commit to wanting to make the most of his career in a while. And this is truly interesting news to see come from Pitbull. And a great one for the New Mexico boxing scene. Clinton Chavez gets to be back in the ring. You get the Tapias all with their second fight. So May 30th all the way to now June 14th, not to mention this weekend. It's crazy to see the New Mexico boxing scene being so busy once again. And it's a really good sight to see as well that we're getting the local fights. June 13th, Empire Promotions, their next event in Las Cruces. July 11th, you get CFC 7 back in El Paso. So it's not just the UFC, but the local fight scene. We got all the way back out to August. Who knows how many boxing events will be booked by then? Who knows if Holmes Boxing, in association with Donald Sanchez Promotions, how many events they will have done by that time. And then we'll also have in August Fight World and APFC back once again. I see our special guest, our surprise to everybody else. It's a familiar face, actually, in Fred Slow.
Hi and hello, and welcome me to my fight show. I, of course, am Fred Slow. You are Mika Frankl. And alongside all of us is your adoring fans.
Exactly. There's a couple of people out there still watching. We've had a fun night tonight. Katherine Renee Lindenmuth joined us. She's heading to Denmark right now.
She's awesome.
She's in Denver, heading to Denmark to fight for a WBA interim title. So yeah, we harassed her on her layover.
When I was doing terrestrial radio, she did my show several times. And I'm still doing terrestrial radio. When I was doing daily terrestrial radio, she had joined me several times because not only was she always fighting, and her passion for it came a little bit later in life than some other people who jumped into it. But yeah, she was always telling like a really important story to people about it, right? So she was always working with the community. She was always real kid-centric in the messaging she was trying to give. So I'm a big fan of her, and I don't know who she's fighting, so let me apologize. But whoever it is, they have it coming.
Linn Sandstorm, an Australian, and they're fighting in Denmark just so that she didn't have to go all the way to Australia to make the fight happen. And Catherine's actually moving up a weight class for this one, so she's a little bit undersized for the fight. Yeah,
isn't that neat how combat sports is with that stuff? Like the willingness to do it. And I'm about to like project myself here, but willing am I to make like a dramatic weight change for money? If you're like, hey, there's more money in this weight class. But again, I'm like, that's my motivation. Some people are like, hey, you know what I really want? Look at that competition. I want to be a winner. I want to have a shot at the title. I think I can do it at that weight class. Those people I do also get, but to me, it's about the coin. It's about making sure the dollar amount is right, and I'll be any weight I can healthily be. And also, not all these people healthily do it. Like, that's not a real thing.
And it's prize fighting. That's where it starts off with, is prize fighting. So it is the prize. Is it the glory? Is it the financial benefit? But there is the allure of that ultimate prize at the end of it. We also tonight talk with Jake Woodley. He's an MMA fighter. You probably won't know the name yet, but he's one you'll be hearing of. He's at the Jacksonwink Academy, and they've talked about the kid as one of the next ones to get the call up to the UFC. He's in the LFA. It's one of the major feeders, and I'm just going to keep talking because I think Fred actually froze unless he's that perfectly. Oh, dude, you were froze for like a split second. You look like
I was reasonably interested. I'm trying to learn.
No, see, that time you froze again for a second.
Oh, did I? I do my absolute best to keep up.
But yeah, so Jake Woodley, he is an outstanding prospect. This was an Oklahoma wrestler who now is on a win streak, had one loss, but he's 3 in a row in the win column and is going to fight again in June. It looks like with a win there in August, he'll get a call for what they call the Contender Series. And that's literally where you fight in front of Dana White. So for you, that's a little more pop culture centric. It's literally like the Miss America pageant of the UFC. And if you impress enough in the talent portion of the competition, Dana White can bring you on to the UFC.
I think I've talked about this before. I don't know if I've talked about it with you. I don't care for Dana White. Have I told you this opinion that I have?
No, but it's not an unpopular one or one that's not out there. So go for your reasons.
He's terrible. First of all, like all the obvious stuff, like the stuff about being abusive, the stuff about like underpaying his talent, like all that stuff. Yes, 100%. The one that got me though. So this was the Super Bowl, and I'm putting a cough drop in. This was the Super Bowl in 2017, and it's the one in Houston. I couldn't tell you the game. Maybe New England, Atlanta. New England came back from 23-3 or whatever, 27-3.
28-3.
Yeah. So I'm at that Super Bowl working Radio Row. And if you remember, this is pre-pandemic, and Radio Row was a little bit different then because it was tighter. You know, like the way it's kind of spaced out now, there's a little bit of way to move around, and it's a bit, but it used to just be like quads of tables. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm there, and we have Dana White booked from some UFC thing or whatever it is, right? So he's going to come on. This is why I'm doing radio out of St. Louis. So he's going to come sit down with us and talk about it. We had just had Demetrius Johnson on, who is a small dude. I don't know how else to describe that, right? Like he was
UFC flyweight champion, 125 pounds.
You know them. Yeah. So at that time, I think he was currently a champion. And we got Karolinko. No, Kacheka. Oh, what's the Russian guy? Shevchenko. So she's on too. So I'm like, all right, cool. We're knocking them out. Like Amanda
Nunez.
Yeah. So cool. Here we go. We got them all. Like, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna have zero problems in the world. Dana White's gonna come up. We're gonna put a cherry on the top of this thing. You know, and being from St. Louis is like a boxing community, but UFC's kind of there. You know, they Tyrone, and you know, there's some guys that kind of came out of there. So anyways, long story, Matt Hughes was like a huge name in St. Louis for a bunch of years. Southern Illinois, but St. Louis, you get the idea. So anyways, we do all the things, and Dana White's handler comes up, and Dana White's handler is like, how to go with, you know, Mighty Mouse. I'm like, oh, it's really good. How to go with, you know, I think Amanda Nunez was the champ at the time. How to go with the champ. And I'm like, oh, really well. He's like, how to go with, give me her name, Shevchenko. She's like, how to go with that? And I go, a bit of a language barrier, but, she did really great. And this and that and the other thing. And she goes, well, it sounds like you guys are good on UFC. I go, what? Like we have it here. We have a schedule. Like we put down a schedule. You're on the schedule. And I go, I do not big time me, Dana White. So anyways, he walks right over to Memphis Radio. Memphis Radio was like right next to us. I'm not going to say anyone's name. Like Eli Savoy. I'm going to say his name. So Eli Savoy is working in Memphis Radio, and they sit down and they go on for what should be a 7-minute interview. Now Radio Row is they go for 20 minutes. I'm like, we couldn't have figured it out. Like you couldn't have got old DW over it. And this is before I knew I hated him. And then I hated him. So I've hated him ever since. That's the end of that story. The end of that story is Dana White's not for me because one handler one time bumped him after I sludged through some talent interviews.
I don't think he knows my name, and I'm very happy about that. And I've sat in the front row before, and he said, what did you say to me? And I very calmly, with my heart in my throat, repeated the question. And because I was able to repeat it very eloquently, he's like, I'll give an answer. The other guy that asked that same question in the same most stupid, basic way possible last week, we didn't give him an answer. You'll get an answer. And this was back talking about if they were going to utilize the technology in the Intuit Dome, coming off of how they had utilized the technology in the Spear, and me just kind of asking him what kind of effort it was to construct their thoughts from the Intuit Dome and how they wanted to use it coming off of what they had did in the Spear.
That's a great question. First of all, that's a super smart question. Secondly, I've never done a UFC press conference. Like I've done dozens of WWE ones. I've done a whole bunch of that stuff. What is that room like? Is it just like all accredited, like kind of reporters and is it a bunch of podcasters? Is it all written guys? Like what is What's a media scrum look like for UFC?
All three of those when it gets to be the Dana White one, because there are the like in baseball, you understand the term more. There's the media that's the traveling media that's with the team all the time. You have those guys. Yeah, you have those guys with the UFC from the major outlets that are there all the time. Then you get the larger numbered events, and that's where you get the more varied amount of media, where there's more websites or local podcasters. So you end up with an eclectic group where the first couple rows there are the people, though, that are that on the beat media that are always there. So, and then you'll end up with 4 or 5 rows back of tables of different kinds of media, just depending on who it is and what the event is.
Who's the big guy? Ariel? Is Ariel still the big reporter over there?
So Ariel Helwani is so big that he actually doesn't even go to the events. Okay. I think they've talked him back now with the TKO involvement and how Nick Khan is his manager and also in TKO. I believe he's off of the blacklist, but
he was. Yeah.
He's such a big star that he's almost a distraction from the process outside and getting everybody in. So I don't think he likes to go because he draws so much attention. Because when you're having all the media line up outside an hour before the event for everyone to get in, you'll see other of the more famous media members become objects for photo ops and people coming up to say hi. And you can imagine if there's some having that happen, what it would be like if Ariel was standing out there.
I'm raising an eyebrow to that one. Obviously I work in the world of pro wrestling, right? That's the world I'm overly familiar with. And, there's a couple guys, and I think Ariel kind of falls. Obviously he covers wrestling too. But like, if your job description is you just give out like between 1 and 5 ratings on matches, like that's not a fancy job. Like that's not an exclusive job. Like we can all do that. Like you know who's qualified for that? Anyone that can count to 5. Like that's who's qualified. And it's so funny, the fandom that surrounds that stuff. I've been so fortunate in my pro wrestling life to, been to so many WrestleManias and so many, all these things. And you go and there is a little bit of an understanding. When I ask a press conference question, and WWE does, they come in, real tight on you. They do this whole thing and they're like, excuse me, Mr. Triple H. I was just wondering if you could tell me the significance of partnering with a brand so prestigious as Netflix. And then fans are like, "You're the coolest." I'm like, I don't know what part of what you saw was cool. I am the coolest, but 0 qualifiers off what you saw made me cool. 0.
Each one is a little bit different from the understanding, because I've also worked with some companies where you go to the press conference and the press conference can be open-ended, where you get an athlete in front of you and they're like, hey, if you guys got questions, we're going to let him talk as long as this is great content and let's just all put this out. And I've been to other companies where they're like, everybody's getting one question. And if everybody doesn't want to ask one question, that means some of you can do follow-ups. And I'm like, really? There's like 10 of us in here and we're limited to 10 questions?
Well, I don't know what your fan base says about this, but in your world, there's value in sitting in the press conference. I don't know what to call it, the scrum. There's value in sitting in that the whole show, because you can get guys immediately following the fight, or gals. You can get individuals immediately following their fights, and they could be victorious or they could have fallen, in battle or whatever. I don't know what to call it, lost. But they immediately get thrown to the media. And that's when, specifically, if you're like, you were talking about, like one of those embedded reporters or somebody from the hometown of someone, you're going to be able to get like the exact thing you want in that moment. But you don't get to sit out by the ring. I don't know what they call it, the technical zone. You don't get to be in the technical zone. You don't get to do whatever because you're just sitting there waiting for your chance to get the one thing you're paid to do there, which is to get that quip or that bite or that, write up or whatever. So yeah, yours is brutal. Unlike the one I live in, where as soon as Roman Reigns wins, they walk you down to a press room and then you miss nothing. You're actually part of the show.
Oh, you think that's brutal? Think about the optics of MMA fight, a bare knuckle fight. There's a fight going on, and you're trying to ask questions to the person that just won before that, and trying to kind of rubberneck around the interview while you're doing it to get the screen that's behind, because you're like, I need to have some kind of idea of what's going on out there to formulate the next set of questions, and you're trying to make all of this work. It is a tightrope act.
There's like a little bit of an ignorance to it too. This is my opinion. There's a little bit of an ignorance to it too, because you're like, oh my God, I'm a reporter. I have to go live immediately. I have to get this thing out there. And you're like, to what audience? That audience is still watching the fights out there. Like, why don't you put a little bit of effort, not you, Mika Frankl, but you reporter, idiot reporter, why don't you put the effort into creating something that's worth consuming at some point? You know what I mean? Like, you have to put the effort into something that maybe it's edited. And I mean, Opus is fine or whatever thing you're using. But like, yeah, put the effort into getting something that's going to get used later instead of just being the first tweet or whatever. But also, a lot of people have made money off being the first tweet. So I guess I can't really say that's a bad approach. I just don't do it.
No, that one's definitely an interesting approach. But yeah, the world of pro wrestling is a completely different dynamic because of the way it's controlled and it plays in. And talking about the world of pro wrestling, just wanted to get some general thoughts from you coming off of the success of a Full House and Birthday Bash #3.
Yeah, that was cool, right?
Dude, that was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. The historic El Rey Theater is so interesting. It's not the most seats in the world. It's I think we put down 285 seats, and they all sell out every show. And you're like, well, Fred, that's not that many seats. That's not that impressive. I guess you're right, but I'm going to tell you, we've sold out every single show we've ever had at the El Rey. And then the GA is where it gets like really exciting, right? I guess I'm lying. It's way more than that. It's 300 and some change because there's like an upstairs part too. But anyway, long story short. So we're always around, 400 to 500 people. We've hit 600 before, and you go, okay, there's a lot of energy in the building. There's a lot of enthusiasm. How do you not just, fuel that, but then how do you make it reciprocal? Like, how do you take that energy in the building, feed it into the performers, and not just the ones in the rings, but those that are helping produce, yourself included, myself included? Like, how do you capture that and then utilize it for 2 hours and 30 or 2 hours and 45 minutes of an event? And I tell you, I really felt like we did it. I really felt like in the third year, the fans don't need educated anymore. The entertainers know you're not going to come out and do the F word, and you're not going to come out and do a hardcore match. You're going to come out and you're going to wrestle in front of kids and grandparents and families, and you can do it with a lot of enthusiasm and get really creative with the product that you're delivering. And I thought all the little cylinders were firing, Micah. Like, I thought it was like one of the first ones where I was like, I'm not reminding people to. I'm not telling people to. Like, there's a synergy in the building right now. So I would say 3 years in, we're starting to figure it out. That's my takeaway.
The fewest amount of text messages I've ever received in one night. The fewest amount of extra jobs I've ever been sent on. Only a couple times did Micah have to jump into action with being the Fred assistant. So yeah, that was definitely on the plus side, but also just looking at that crowd, as you talked about the number, that it's not a lot of seats. I'm like, I watch way too much YouTube wrestling by now, looking through reels, and we have a large venue. I figured out. I watch a lot of places where if you have 2 rows on the side of the rings and 3 rows in front, that seems like a pretty good indie audience. And we have a lot more space than that in the El Rey Theater.
Yeah, you're saying something correct. The El Rey, which I said, we usually fit around 500 people. It's really great. Number one for TV. It's a really good, it's a theater, right? We have theater lights and theater sound, and we have all these things. There's value in Knights of Columbus halls, and there's value in armories, and there's value in Shriners and Eagles and all those things. Those things all matter. Like do those things. They're great. But they're not great for what you just described, YouTube or television or what, and that's the thing. We've talked about this before, Micah, but it's, I feel like we're simultaneously creating 2 things. We're creating a live event, and we're creating a TV event. We're doing it at the same time. And the thing about balancing those 2 is, we want to appease and we want to be engaged with the 500 in attendance. But I just pulled up the numbers literally the other day. We hit, in the last calendar year, we hit 1.5 million people through our social media. So I'm like, we have to account for those people too. And I do recognize there's some crossover, but we'll never get 1.5 million people inside of the historic El Rey. That'll never happen. We will get 500.
Just New Mexico.
No, that's the world. That's the world. And up until kind of recently, you can see on a lot of military bases, but I think they changed how their IP addresses work now because that kind of went away. But yeah, it's all over the world, and then I very much considered very recently getting someone to do Spanish over the broadcast because there's such a large population of viewers from Latin American countries. And I'm like, well, okay, let me find a budget and find someone who can do the Espanol of this thing, because I think it will hit that audience too. And that's like the neatest part of pro wrestling is it's a worldwide language. Suplex is suplex in Japanese or English or German or whatever.
The Mega Campeon AAA title this week became the first title to get defended on AEW and WWE TV. You've been a longtime wrestling fan. I just got a kick out of seeing an old school promotion like AAA get that kind of recognition, even though the two big companies don't work together. It's still cool to see that though happen.
I mean, they do work together. Don't get worked. It's a neat title because it's old, like you said, and it looks old. You know, I mean, I know Fred, it's been recast. Fred, you get what I'm saying. It's designed old. You know, being a part of the NWA, it's, you know, it's not the 10 pounds of gold. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I kind of like rate everything to. But yeah, it's super cool because the fans that are really passionate about AAA, or they're really passionate about WWE, or they're really passionate about NWA or TNA or AEW or whatever it is, you know, when those forbidden doors are knocked on or opened or whatever, that exposes that audience to that product, to that other brand, you know. And this is my opinion, you know. What is the time this recording is Tuesday, May the 12th, 8:00 Mountain Time, right? All across this country right now, there are, and I mean millions of people in stadiums. There are millions of people at arenas. There are millions of people on their couch that are currently absorbing every single type of entertainment and media in the world of athletics or athletics similar. There's enough room for everyone all the time. And this is the best way, in my opinion, to hit that audience multiple times. So yeah, I thought it was super smart from a business aspect, from a storytelling aspect. And although I feel like he's featured in multiple segments tonight, Dominic Mysterio is the most underutilized performer in WWE. He's the absolute best. He has the most talent. Everything he does better than anyone's ever done it. That Judgment Day thing he's in doesn't look anything like it looked the day he started, and it's better because of him. Yeah, he's top tier, dude. He's top tier. And he's like 20. He's like a baby.
We're getting towards 8:00. We're going to be wrapping up on my fight show. I think Fred might have something planned for me a few minutes later.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do, and also you can find this on Duke City Championship Wrestling. Go to watchdccw.com or any of our social media outlets. You and I are going to sit down and we're going to watch Duke City Championship Wrestling Season 4, Episode 20. That's Last Light. This is Turbo Test taking on the tag team of, looks like Charlie 50 and Chris Watson. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to enjoy this because you haven't done one of these watch-alongs with me yet, and it's fun to laugh with you.
It'll be fun to laugh with you. I'm looking forward to it. Before we do the laughter, though, the sorrow and the heartbreak is something that you guys have mastered at Duke City Championship Wrestling. I didn't think besides FU Thunder things could get louder than that. And then Matthew Robles turns on For Sale, and I didn't know that the crowd was so attached to that tandem. It was emotion.
Well, and you know, the irony of the whole storytelling is, like, if you recall, you know, when For Sale became champion 8 months ago or whatever it was at the assistance of Matthew Robles and Brian Idol. You know, that was, For Sale is been on the beneficiary side of this for some time. And, you know, for whatever reason, Matthew Robles has deemed that For Sale was no longer the fit for him as related to the Duke City Championship Wrestling heavyweight title, and bringing in, like we said, Brian Idol from the NWA to disrupt, destroy, and dismantle. I just tried to go with alliteration. The champion and did, right. And like you mentioned, the El Rey lost their stuff, and I'm going good. Like, oh, we're moved to emotion. Like, I'll see you next month. Like, that's how this thing works. But yeah, it was wild, right? Like heartbreak and whatever trajectory For Sale goes on from here. You know, I do believe the crowd will support him and be behind him. And then, you know, the fun underscore of that whole thing, Chelsea Dotson. Like, Ronan? I thought, yeah, that storytelling is as good as anything in pro wrestling right now. Like, what is her mental, emotional state? Where is, you know, she has also been abandoned, but not necessarily betrayed. Like, are you able to forgive those who have? Yeah, it has been tremendous. It has been very, very good. And it's because of the people who tell the story, right? So it's, yeah, absolute top tier. But that's not the episode we're watching. That one's not out
Every
yet.
time I think I have an idea of what Matthew Robles has up his sleeve, he reshuffles the deck. And that's why you guys have to join us live. Las Vegas, New Mexico, June 12th. That's going to be incredible getting out there for Battle on Bridge Street. And if you can't make it out there, we return home to the El Rey Theater on June 20th. Fred, where are the tickets available at?
The June 12th is dccwlive.com, and then June 20th is dccwtickets.com. Everything's always available at holdmyticket.com. And then a bunch of other exciting announcement coming, including Clovis, including Carlsbad, including grants, including a partnership with the State Fair, including the Rio Rancho event center. There's all kinds of cool stuff going on in the world of pro wrestling here in New Mexico.
Oh, again, guys, don't forget October 16th, the Goat Heads are debuting. So that became official too with the first puck dropping.
Yeah, also not public yet, but we will have pro wrestling night with the Goat Heads, which is really, really cool. So they're going to do an entire theme night around the world of pro wrestling, and how fortunate Duke City Championship Wrestling will be to be a part of that.
You need photos, hit up Robbie Ray Images.
Yeah.
The beard balm is from Barbers R Us. Barber Gabe Fade at Lobo Plaza is where you go to look your best for the weekend. Huge weekend of fights, a bunch of New Mexico fighters in action. This has been my fight show. We'll check you guys out on the Duke City Championship Wrestling social media in just a couple minutes. Thanks for watching.